It's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm not expecting anyone to be there. Oh my God, there are people watching me. I don't believe it. What are you guys doing up at 2 o'clock in the morning? I'm doing this live stream to help me clear my thoughts because I've been brainstorming all day today in preparation for Best Agent Day on the 27th of June. And I've realized that there are a few things that people who are interested in how to fix the housing market really need to understand. And if we don't understand this, it can never get fixed. And the first thing to understand is that the housing market is the estate agency industry. The two things are one and the same. The estate agency industry is the housing market, and the housing market is the estate agency industry. They are one and the same. So you can't fix the housing market without fixing the problems in the estate agency industry. And everyone thinks that estate agents themselves are the problem. And that's the first mistake everybody makes. By the way, this is going to be a long ramble. Don't watch it. Right. Don't watch this. This is more for me than it is for you. But knowing that there are people watching, oh my God, loads of you watching already. Knowing that people watching helps me keep my thoughts on track. Because if no one's listening to me, my thoughts just go wow all over the place. And this helps me keep my thoughts on track. So, and these are things I've never said before. But if you are interested in understanding how the UK estate agency industry works and how it affects the housing market and how the two are interlinked, and how someone who has spent 25 years studying this problem to find a solution, there is a way to fix it. There is a way to fix it. I'm going to spell it out in basic terms in this video. But there are a few prerequisites. Okay, number one, only estate agents can fix this problem. It's weird, isn't it? You might think, what about the government? What about regulations? What about law, changing the law? Only estate agents can fix this problem. Right? Now, I won't bore you with the reasons why, but that is an inescapable conclusion of my 25 years of research into this problem in this particular country with the way things are set up here. But Charlie, estate agents are the problem, you say. No, they're not. The estate agents themselves are not the problem. They are, in fact, the solution. The problem is a much more subtle. The estate agency industry is a battlefield. It's a battlefield for movers as well, but ignoring movers, put into one side, the estate agency industry itself is a battlefield with multiple battles happening on it. The biggest battle is between large volume corporate estate agencies who clean up much more market share than most of them deserve, and the other 75% of the estate agents who are small owner managed businesses with 3 or fewer branches. And those agents with 3 or fewer branches make up over 75% of estate agency offices. So it's really important to understand that, right? People think, oh, it's all the big names. No. The big names, whilst they do possess the largest market share, they are in fact in the minority. And this is where part of the imbalance is, part of the problem comes. That's one of the big battles between the corporates and the independents. And then amongst the independents, they're all fighting each other over the scraps left behind by the big volume corporates. I'm generalizing. There are some very good corporate agents, and there are plenty of very good independent agents who rise above this fight, but the majority are engaged in this constant battle. And so much more energy is expended by agents fighting each other than it is on solving the industry's problems, because otherwise they don't stay in business. I can tell you honestly, after 20-something years of having estate agents as clients, mostly owner managed independents, small and medium independent agents, but also some corporate agents. I can tell you honestly that the majority of agents working there strive to do a good job, to look after their clients and to deliver value. Honestly, and I know that it doesn't seem like that and it doesn't feel like it, but that's because it's such a complicated situation. Yes, there are plenty of agents who don't give a stuff about customer service and don't give a stuff about results. They give a stuff only about their business and making profit, and that's it. And there are plenty of those. And unfortunately, those are the agents who are ruthless and dishonest who actually sucker in most sellers on the market. And they do so in a number of ways, but one of them is by always going, well, we're a large corporate, so you can trust us. You can't trust the dodgy small agents. And there are some dodgy small agents that you can't trust, but there are plenty that you can. And actually, I would place my trust much more in an owner-managed business where the owner has the name above the door or their name on the for sale board than I would trust a nameless individual in a corporate branch who may or may not be working there next month. Anyway, I'm rambling. In a nutshell, there are enough good people in estate agency who have come into estate agency to try and lift standards and do a better job and to help people move house faster and to get things done. There are enough there to solve the problem. Having said that, most of them have given up hope that the problem will ever be solved. And all the time you get new agents starting up going, I'm gonna change estate. I mean, I've seen this myself and I welcome it and it's commendable, but I've seen it over 20 years, every single year, year after year after year, you get new entrants into the estate agency market, starting a new business going, I'm gonna change things. And I know some of those people who've been doing it for more than 20 years and they get after 20 years and they just go, it's the most relentless, thankless shit fight. Even the ones who've done really well. And in the end, do you know what they do? They sell their successful independent business to a corporate, which means that the whole market is moving backwards as corporates just hoover up more and more of what used to be good owner-managed independent estate agents. And I know this because lots of my clients' estate agency businesses have been sold to corporate agents. And every time it happens, I'm sad. And every time it happens, I wish that what they've done instead is actually found a way to sell the business on to staff within their business who wanted to run it, who knew the clients, who knew the passion, they could nurture them maybe in a part-time, whatever. Estate agents aren't the problem. The good estate agents there are the solution to fixing the housing market's problem. What needs to be understood is what is stopping the good agents. Let's have a quick chat about all the things that have happened in the last 25 years where people have tried to improve the housing market. Okay, so back in the early 2000s, there was a website called Property Broker, and it cut out the estate agent, and it was basically like Auto Trader, where private car sellers can sell their cars, but it was only private sales. And it was like, use Property Broker and only pay them a tiny amount of money and advertise your properties on the website. And everyone thought, oh my God, this is finally the thing that's going to get rid of estate agents. And it failed and it died. Right around the time that I started, and by the way, when I first started, my very first attempt in this industry was, I was like everyone else. I thought estate agents themselves were the problem. I thought that now that the internet was here, they were no longer necessary. And I got aged 26 years old and with no experience in technology or property, I raised a whole bunch of money, valuing the business over 7 figures before it even started, by investors who were like, oh my God, this is genius. You're right, we don't need estate agents anymore. I was wrong, they were wrong. I mean, the most recent example, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, over £1 billion has been wasted and lost on startups trying to disrupt the estate agency industry, and the graveyard is full of them, and all the VC's money buried in the graveyard with them. The biggest of all being Purple Bricks. I know Purple Bricks went bust and it got sold for £1 and it got bought by Strike, and now Strike's rebranded Purple Bricks. But the original Purple Bricks had the TV and it was on the stock market, and at one point it had a valuation of £1 billion. What does that tell you about investors? People believed that purple bricks was worth £1 billion and it never made any money, and it eventually went bust and was sold for £1, £1 single. What does that tell you? It tells you that all those investors thought, estate agents aren't needed anymore. You just need an online thing. And why didn't it work? Right. Well, so the next big mistake everyone makes is that all agents do is put properties onto the internet and wait for a buyer to come along, and that's it. That is the biggest single mistake that anyone makes if they want to understand the housing market, because finding a buyer and getting a price agreed is the easier part of an estate agent's job. What is a much more difficult part, and right now is more difficult than ever, is then getting that agreed sale over the line, exchanged and completed. That is exceptionally difficult, and it has almost nothing to do with property and almost everything to do with people. I was just jotting down earlier on today a list of all the human factors. Those of you who don't know, my hobby is I'm a private pilot and I fly. And to get your pilot's license, one of the exams you have to pass is something called human factors, because human factors are the number one cause of aviation accidents. As so it is in a estate agency. Human factors are the number one cause of sales, agreed sales falling through. And this is just a list I scribbled down. So imagine you're a seller, right? And seller or a buyer, and you're in a transaction, you've spent your money and you've paid for your survey or you've paid for your conveyances and you've shelled out all this time and money, and it's currently taking an average of 154 days according to Rightmove, which is like 5 months. And you're 5 months in and your deal falls through. Listen to this list of reasons that makes the deal fall through, and then ask yourself what it is estate agents actually do. Indecision, delusion, divorce, disagreements. And I'm talking about disagreements between people on the buyer side or between people on the seller side. Greed, ego, dementia. Because when a transaction takes 5 months, a lot of things can happen in people's lives during this time. Pregnancy, inheritance, succession, uncertainty, ignorance, naivety, hubris, fear, difference of opinion, revenge, sabotage, incompetence, stupidity, cowardice, health, accidents, and death. Yes, there are people who die in the course of a property transaction happening, and it derails it. And thinking about that list of stuff I just read out, that is what estate agents spend their life trying to mitigate against. Human behavior is the number one enemy of property transactions in England and Wales at the moment. Scotland has a better system. I don't know about the Northern Ireland system. But in England and Wales, human behavior and human characters are the number one problem. And what estate agents do more than anything else is manage the humans involved. Most of them, it's such a complicated job that it's actually too difficult for most agents to do well. And the agents that do it well, and let me define what I mean by well, are worth their weight in gold. An agent that does their job well is someone who gets every client's property sold within a reasonable time frame and for the best price available. Any agent that consistently, and this is where estate agency reviews don't help, right? Because lots of agents have got some happy clients, and they get those reviews from those happy clients. But consistently delivering timely transactions at prices that people want, at fair market price, is so much harder than anyone understands, because so much of the transaction is outside your control. This is where the real skill and experience of the best agents comes in. They can see the warning signs of this human behavior and the likelihood of deals falling through coming down the tracks a long way off. And it's only because of their experience they learn to do that. I can remember a friend of mine used to work in an agency in Notting Hill 20 years ago, and he had a real sense for what he would call flaky deals. And a flaky deal would be one where either the buyer or the seller or both just weren't committed to the deal. And it used to happen because they would be individual staff in the office would compete against each other to sell a property. You'd want, as an agent, you'd want your buyer to buy that property because then you get the commission as the negotiator. And if your mate, your colleague has tied up a deal and you know that deal's flaky and you've got a better buyer, you know that seller would be better off with your buyer, but you've got to undermine your colleague to get the deal. But you know that's better. It's so complicated, and it's not easy. It is not easy. Okay, so those are all the human factors involved in what agents do. So estate agency is a human and a people thing first and foremost. Properties don't move, people move, and estate agents are in the business of moving people, right? And there's the complexities, the legals, the financials, the regulations, the money laundering, the ID. There's so much paperwork and so many problems. I mean, one of the most frustrating things conveyancers have to deal with is buyers who don't have a legitimate source of funds, and that can scupper a deal. And a lot of agents won't check that kind of stuff out early on, and only when it's 3 months down the line do we actually find out, oh dear, this buyer doesn't have legitimate source of funds, so the deal falls through. Tell that to the people who think, oh, it's really easy to sell a house. You just put it on Rightmove. So fixing the housing market is number one, requires the understanding of the fact that estate agents are crucial to a functioning housing market, number one. Now, remember the battlefield I told you about, where there's a big battle between corporate agents and independent agents, and there's another battle between independent agents themselves. The third battle is between the portals, the big property sites, Rightmove, Zoopla, and On the Market, between those guys and agents, the 75% of small agents out there. As I'm recording this, live streaming this at 2 o'clock in the morning on 1st of June, or 2nd of June it is now, Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market are either fully owned by or controlled by American hedge funds or private equity funds or investors. And because they are American owners, they are unconcerned about the worries of small UK estate agents. They're unconcerned about the functionality of the UK housing market. They don't care. They have all bought these businesses because these businesses are rinsing estate agents. Most estate agents, they are rinsing them, absolutely rinsing them, and none more so than Rightmove. Now, there's no problem with Rightmove's. Rightmove's website is good, and Rightmove actually delivers value to a lot of agents. But there is a massive imbalance, which is part of the problem of the housing market. The good agents have made several attempts to solve that problem by starting up a national property site that agents control rather than these big investment funds. And every attempt has failed. And I have been involved, not directly involved, but I've been, because my software, my technology is always actually integrated with all of these portals and had a technical relationship with them. And I've been weirdly involved at a close level with all of these efforts going way back to the early 2000s, very early 2000s, when Rightmove started. The first site, there was Property Finder and Finder Property. There was just one guy. And the National Association of Estate Agents, as it was then, thought, well, we'll do it. We're going to represent our members. And they tried, and it failed. Then Prime Location came along. I think Prime Location even still exists. It's owned by Zoopla. And Prime Location came along, and Prime Location was the agent-owned portal. And it actually made a bit of a splash. And for a while, it looked like agents might actually be able to get control of a significant national property site. But no, the investors and the corporate agents had their way with it, and they sold it. And they just sold it for money, and they sold out on the concept of agents having control over their futures. Some agents who made lots of money out of it were very happy, and this is where you have the battle between agents, and other agents were very unhappy about it. And then They tried it again with what is today on the market. And as I just told you, on the market, it's owned by an American hedge fund. So you already know the end of this story. But the worst thing is that when on the market started, its intention was to try to knock Rightmove off its perch and weaken the duopoly of Rightmove and Zoopla. And it did exactly the opposite. It kneecapped Zoopla because it forced all of its members to only be on one of those two portals. They had to pick one and stay on it, and they had to come off the other one. It was the most stupid own goal they could possibly have done. I told them at the time. I sat down with the chief executive on the market face to face and warned him and told him what the better way to do it would be that would actually win the battle. And the rest is history. OTM struggled. It never got traction. It tried all kinds of gimmicky stuff that didn't work. And in the end, it's just been sold to another American hedge fund. Why? Why do American hedge funds buy anything? Nice money from all those agents being rinsed and ripped off. So here we are back to square one. And those portals are a major part of the problem of the UK housing market. But no one thinks so. The general public and journalists and that kind of thing, no one is aware of the fact that the way those portals operate actually feeds the problem. It's not intentional. It's a sort of unintended consequence of their business models and the way they work. And the public uses them all every day and thinks nothing of it. But actually, because the public uses them, the problems that the good agents face are getting worse and worse and worse. And I won't bore you with the details of actually why that is the case, but it is the case. I'm staggered that there's anyone listening to this. This is a ramble purely for my own benefit, but I'm glad you're all there. Actually, just have a look in the chat. Who's there? Hi, guys. Thanks for your company. Good morning. Where did I get to? Okay. To fix the housing market, there are 10 problems that need fixing. Number one is sellers choosing the wrong agents. That is the single biggest problem affecting the housing market. I'm just talking about sales, not lettings. Lettings is another separate story. Number one, most sellers, like 80% of sellers, choose the wrong or a bad agent first time. And I have a solution to that. Number two, the way that the portals, Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market operate actually exacerbates the problem of overvaluing and overpricing. Number three, the media setting sellers' price expectations too high. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I don't think it's intentional. Some people do. There might be some sort of unconscious bias among journalists going, oh, great, house prices are going up and record highs, whatever. But actually, let's just assume that it's all done innocently. They don't even realize they're doing it. But the relentless reporting, which is just repeating regurgitated press releases from the industry, has led to the ridiculous overpricing that we've got, where there's this big standoff between asking prices and sold prices. So media setting sellers' expectations too high is a problem that needs to be solved. And it can be. Number four, long sole agency agreements that sellers are locked into is a major problem. And if that was solved, and it is a solution to that problem, that would help massively. Number five, overvaluing. Arguably one of the biggest problems, and actually leads to some of the other problems as well. But it's one of the 10 problems. Agents overvaluing. Number six, sellers coming to the market without all the information that they need in place to be able to actually sell. It absolutely blows my mind how many sellers come to the market and then they get an offer and it's not accepted. They're like, oh, cool, what do we do now? We've got to get a conveyancer. And they end up being spoon-fed by their agent, or use this conveyancer, which is often is not a good one, and no one chivies them along, and it takes weeks to get the paperwork ready, and they've got to fill out. And all of this could have been done beforehand, at no extra cost, but it isn't. And this is one of the major contributing factors to other big problems. But so getting upfront information on properties ready before you come to the market would cost nothing and speed up the process. That's a problem I have a solution to. That's number 6. Number 7, the conditional selling of mortgages by some estate agencies with in-house mortgage brokers. It's illegal, but it happens because there's no enforcement. Number 8, conveyancing. Conveyancing is a massive problem, and in particular, it is the communications between conveyancing firms and estate agencies that is a problem. And the really sad fact here is that many deals fall through avoidably because of poor conveyancing. Such a waste of time and money, but it happens. And guess what? Those conveyancers get paid whatever happens. Numbers 9 and numbers 10. Number 9 is some of you probably going, come on, Charlie, but it's government. It's the government's job to fix the housing market. Well, yes, housing policy is a major factor in the lack of functionality of a housing market. Okay. But if the plan that I have works, then even that can be fixed. Even that can be fixed. With the right influence in the right places and not vested interests influence in those places. And number 10 is the new homes industry. Now, new homes builders, there are plenty who are very good and they build good quality homes. They charge market price for them. Good luck to them. But there are also lots who sell overpriced tat that's not fit for purpose. And they go to extraordinary lengths to puff the prices up on that. And it causes a massive problem. They don't build enough affordable homes. That's down to government policy. But those last 2 things are also major parts of the problem, but ultimately could be improved upon. So, believe me, as someone who wants more than anyone else I know to actually help fix the housing market problems so that more people can have homes and more people can move more easily and social mobility improves and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and good agents get the businesses they deserve, they get the instructions they deserve, they get the income they deserve, they get the business success that they actually deserve, because there are agents who genuinely do deserve business success based on how they operate. For that to happen, it's complicated as hell. And it requires an immensely deep understanding of the process from start to finish, the politics of it, the finances of it, the commercials of it, the legals of it, and the human factors of it. And all the conflicting human motivations in one deal where you've got 5 or 6 parties to every single deal. You know, it's a godforsaken shit fight for everyone involved. And yes, it should be more like the Scottish system, but it isn't. I don't know why it isn't, but it isn't. And there's no sign of that happening or anything like it happening anytime soon. So how do we fix it? What it comes down to is this. Almost all of these problems exist to a greater or lesser degree because of the unfair influence and advantage that some major corporations have over the whole industry, where they abuse their power for their own benefit at the expense of their clients and of the market's benefit. And because people don't move house very often, relatively speaking, there's one born every minute. Every single day, there's a first-time seller, there's a first-time buyer, most of whom are naive to the process, and they're lambs to the slaughter to those big corporates. And so that's why the corporates get away with it. That's got to be ended. And if that undeserved power and influence can be removed from those large organizations, that small number of large organizations, and that power actually starts to shift towards the agents who actually deserve it, things will start to improve quite rapidly. Now, I spent my entire career working on this plan. The plan works. There's no question about that. It's just a question of whether or not I can persuade enough agents that it works. And some agents have got really conflicting views about me because they don't like some of the things I say when I call out some of the tactics that they use. But actually, for better or worse, I'm the best friend they've got as far as the public is concerned. I'm a greater supporter of what agents do and the importance of what they do than anybody else is. I understand them. I'm an impartial, I see myself as an umpire between agents on the one side and movers on the other. And what I've designed in BestAgent, in the tech platform, it has been designed to eliminate all that undeserved power and influence simply due to the scale and the size of those companies. There are different problems. I mean, if I was talking to agents now, I would be talking about the problems that we can solve, which will help them rise to the top and start to deliver better, shorter transaction times, fairer market pricing, etc. Overvaluing, which just leads to the wrong agents getting the business and the right agents not getting it. The uneven costs of marketing, which again leads to the wrong agents getting more leads and the right agents not getting the leads. Transaction times, where the smaller a business, the worse they are affected by long transaction times and fall throughs because every deal is a bigger percentage of that company's turnover. Low fees. Now, I know people think they just get paid too much already, but in this country, we have the lowest fees of anywhere. Estate agency fees in the UK are lower than anywhere else. It's a major reason why service levels across the board are so poor. And even this is down to large corporate behavior, Purple Bricks being one of them. But some of you may know the name Countrywide. Until a couple of years ago, Countrywide was the biggest estate agency in the country, had more branches than anyone else. And in the height of the busiest market estate agents have seen in years, the easiest market to make money in years, the country's largest estate agency went bust. I mean, that's a special accomplishment, isn't it? And we could see it coming a long way off. And one of the reasons they went bust is because they simply weren't charging enough. And number 5 is the massive imbalance in transactions. So with BestAgent data, we've got the data of all the agents and all their properties on the market in the whole of England and Wales. And one of the things that we discovered when we looked at the numbers was this, and it's pretty much uniform everywhere in the country, whether it's in towns or in countryside, cities, villages, whatever, is that 50% of the properties on the market are on with just 10% of agents. And the other 50% of properties on the market are spread between the other 90% of agents. Which means that those first 10% of agents have got roughly 10 times the number of properties on their books than the average of the other 90% of agents have. There is absolutely no way in which those agents with a large market share deserve it. They do not have better performance. They do not get better results. It is all down to a very uneven playing field. An uneven playing field that makes it close to impossible for sellers to be able to pick out agents they can trust from all of the others. Close to impossible. And that's the problem that BestAgent solves. That's what I'm working towards launching with agents on BestAgent Day on the 27th of this month. And if you're an agent watching this and you haven't registered for that event, the link is below. Please register. It's completely free to attend. It's an all-day online conference where we will go through exactly how we take the power away from those corporations and from Rightmove Just take away its monopoly, nothing else. Rightmove's always a great thing, right? But its monopoly is part of the problem, and its stupid house price index is a big part of the problem. But it just helps me to talk this through. This is why I may well end up just deleting this video, because this was more for my benefit than anyone else's. I still can't believe. What are you guys doing up? 220 of you at 2:30 in the morning. What's wrong with you? Oh dear. Let's have a look. Okay, Uday, I've got some interesting questions on this topic here. So Uday Singh says, question regarding your 10 problems. What is meant by houses being overvalued? Good question. And I'm sorry for those of you where I've just assumed you know what it means. So houses being overvalued is when a seller is considering which agent to choose to sell their house and invites them to come round and talk to them. And sellers go, so what do you think you can sell my house for? And the agent will say, I think I can get this much. And the amount they say is a known lie, right? This is the practice of overvaluing. In other words, knowingly giving a much higher valuation of a property than the agent knows it's worth, just to try and get the seller to go with that agent. This is the number one problem in UK estate agency, right? Who decides what the true value is? The market. The market for that property. For each property, the market decides. If no one's offering to buy the property, that property doesn't have a value. All properties have a value of some kind, but you might have to put it in an auction with no reserve to find out what it actually really truly is. But this is where good agents do their job, because a good agent will make sure that they find out what your true value is by getting competing buyers within the first couple of weeks. Yeah, it is a discovery problem. And Uday, I hope that's answered your question. Do we have any other questions on this content, on this video? I don't think so. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to so Adimar07 has paid for a question. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Adimar07 on YouTube says, I paid 270,000 for an Epsom flat. Am I a dumb ass? I have no idea, because I don't know whether or not you're the only offer and you just immediately paid an unrealistic price. And I don't know if you're a cash buyer or a mortgage buyer. I don't know if you're going to get a surveyor to do a lender. I don't know if it's 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms. So I can't answer that question at all, but I want to try. Let's just assume that your question is, have I overpaid for the flat? Well, were there any other people offering for the flat? Or did you just pay what the agent told you to pay? Because if you just pay what the agent told you to pay, no one else is offering, not a dumbass, but you've probably been taken in, and you should perhaps reconsider. But if there were other people bidding and they were all bidding about the same amount and your bid was in the ballpark of theirs, then no, you haven't overpaid. The other thing is, do you like the flat? Do you actually want to live there for a long time? I'm assuming the answer is yes, because if the answer is no, then then the answer to your question is yes, you're a dumbass for buying somewhere that you don't like. Right. Guys, you can probably see my bloodshot eyes. I need to go to bed. Just see if there are any more questions I can answer there. Derek Oakley, can I help with what? I can't see your first question. No, that's it. Guys, thanks for watching. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.